Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you on a dark and rainy day in Boston at the beginning of July. A day that has been the battleground of wills between myself and the tiny little Frida Bean, who hates going out in the rain. She hates even being asked to go out in the rain. And yet, she has bodily functions that she won't do here inside. She won't do them inside. I've told her over and over again, okay, if you hate rain that much, then feel free to go off in a corner somewhere and just crap. I'll pick up after you. I won't be mad at all. But it's her own sense of orderliness. She just won't do it. And so we have to go out, even though it is raining and has been raining all day. I will figure it out. This mail haul is a few packages, and it's going to have to stand in lieu of a bombardment of videos. I don't think I'm going to make a bombardment of videos today. And I'm not going to make any videos at all tomorrow, the 4th of July. With any luck, I will be back on Monday. Lord knows there is a call for it. there is a call, several calls for it. One is the bombardment of emails that I've received after my Friday reads. I don't know why. I've done Friday reads before, but for some reason, maybe it's new people. For some reason, that Friday reads from yesterday had a lot of people emailing me saying, could you please do more of these? Could you talk about the new releases that you are not going to review? A lot of people were very, very nice, very considerate, and said, we understand that if you're commissioned to review something for a newspaper, then you might not want to talk about it. You're absolutely right about that, and that's no might. I wish that more young critics understood that if you are commissioned to review a book for an outlet, a journal of some kind, you don't talk about it at all anywhere else. You certainly don't give some sort of alternate review, much less what I have seen in a number of places, which is for that reviewer to simply read the text of the review. Good Lord. You just don't do that. You just don't. That is just not done. And I won't do it, and except to say that I liked a thing, but no details. And a lot of you were very considerate about that and noted correctly that will still leave a lot of new releases that I read that I'm not commissioned to review. Could you please do more of that? So that's one thing that I should probably do a little more of. And then I also have buddy reads. Some people have broken with the ranks of apparently the unspoken decision on BookTube to never buddy read or group read with Steve, and have done buddy reads with me. For instance, my age-old buddy read, Matthew at Mayberry Book Club. He and I do a book club every month, and we are this month reading Batman Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli, and I need to do my first video of that on Monday or Tuesday or whenever it is that I'm coherent again. Also, there's the Summer of the Silmarils. Scott Danielson and David Wiley and I are reading the Silmarillion, and we're split it up into 4 parts for the month of July, and the first part is due. I'm not going to be getting to those today or any of the other things that I might want to talk about. There's a chance that I will be part of a group discussion via Zoom, I think, or StreamYard or something like that tonight. But other than that, no, that'll be the very last thing, and then I will be off the radar until Monday morning at the very earliest. So this is going to have to do. So let's hope we have some hits in this. Let's see what this first one is. The package says book outlet. So that could be one of you being naughty. That could be one of you ordering a book for me, which is almost always a bad idea. Okay. Yeah. See, this is very generous. This is the Canadian trade paperback of Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. That I don't have. I found a Canadian trade paperback of this book of Wolf Hall at the Brattle Bookshop a month ago, and fell into a long, slow, page by page, careful annotating read through of it, and loved the experience. Absolutely loved it. And told myself, well, you have to wait and see. You know, sooner or later that the companion volume to that will turn up. I already have copies of Bring Up the Bodies, but sooner or later the companion volume will turn up in that format. And this is not that. This is a trade paperback, and it has the same kind of elemental cover design, but it doesn't have the decal edges, it doesn't have the French flaps, and it's a different size. The one I had is a normal hardcover size. This is a cut-down paperback size. So this was a very nice of whoever sent it, but it does just a bit go astray. So now I have a Canadian trade paperback of Bring Up the Bodies. Okay. Let's see here. What is this next one? Feels like a finished copy. There are a couple of finished copies I'm really eager to get. I don't have yet. Don't have any indication that I'm getting them. What is this one? Oh, okay. I think we've seen this already. This is due out in mid-July. This is To Walk Alone in the Crowd by Antonio Munoz Molina, translated from the Spanish by Guillermo Blakemar. To Walk Alone in the Crowd. This is the author's new novel, translated from the Spanish, winner of the 2020 Medici Prize in Spain. This book draws inspiration from some of literature's classic flaneurs, Thomas de Quincey, James Joyce, Garcia Lorca, telling pieces of their stories alongside the narrator's own. Blurring genre lines, Munoz Molina has written a work that is part memoir and part novel, so all memoir, and whose meandering form mirrors that of Walt Whitman's poetry. Okay. Well, those of you in Spain, do you know this author? I'm not sure that we ever did see this. That's interesting. I don't know that we ever saw an advanced copy of that. But one way or another, I've now got a finished copy, and it's in mid-July, so that's coming up. We are in July, as I need to keep reminding myself. All right, let's see what this next one is. Make a little pile of packages over there. Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. This is from the folks at Bloomsbury. This comes out in early September. This is Beasts Before Us, the untold story of mammal origins and evolution. And there you have a dog standing in for all of modern life, and then you have all sorts of proto-animals that many of which were right on the border between what we would consider reptilian, vaguely reptilian, and what we would consider mammalian. This is the first popular science book to completely retell the story of our most ancient ancestors. This book proves they weren't just mammal precursors, they were pioneers. For most of us, the story of mammal evolution starts after the asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs. But in the last 20 years, scientists have uncovered new fossils and used new technologies that have enabled them to drastically rewrite this story. This book takes readers back to the real origin story of our mammalian ancestors, 300 million years earlier than the alien world of the Carboniferous. In the alien world of the Carboniferous. In this book, the author, paleontologist Elsa Panciaroli, charts the emergence of mammal lineage, Synapsida, from their murky split from the reptiles at the dawn of life. There is a synapsid on this cover at the bottom there. They made the world theirs long before the rise of dinosaurs. Familiar faces like Dimetrodon flourished, as well as saber-toothed hyperpredators, chunky armored plant eaters, and small pig-faced diggers. Traveling forward into the Permian and then the Triassic periods, we learn how ancient mammal ancestors went from large, hairy beasts with faster metabolisms and then evolved to exploit miniaturization, which was the key to unlocking the traits that define mammals as we know them today. Their adaptations proved so successful that to this day most mammals retain the same lifestyle, and undoubtedly our most diminutive cousins will outlive us all. Okay, fantastic. So the author is young, or looks young in this author photo, is a paleontologist who studies the evolution and ecology of extinct animals, particularly mammals from the time of the dinosaurs. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Hardly ever read books on this subject, so I'm all for it. Absolutely all for it. Let's see what this next one is here. As we barrel right along. Oh, okay, great. This is going to be a paperback original? Yes, $17 paperback original. Soon to be a major motion picture starring Harry Styles and Emma Corrin. This is My Policeman by Bethan Roberts, with a Call Me By Your Name and Lie With Me and On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous type cover. This type of cover is a style by now. This is a novel. It is in the 1950s Brighton that Marion first catches sight of Tom. He teaches her to swim, gently guiding her through the water in the shadow of the city's famous pier, and Marion is smitten, determined her love alone will be enough for them both. A few years later, Tom meets Patrick, a curator at the Brighton Museum. Patrick is besotted and opens Tom's eyes to the glorious, sophisticated new world of art, travel, and beauty. Tom is their policeman, and in their age it is safer for him to marry Marion and meet Patrick in secret. The two lovers must share him until one of them breaks and 3 lives are destroyed. Inspired by the real-life relationship of the novelist E.M. Forster had with a policeman, Bob Buckingham, and his wife, May, My Policeman is a deeply heartfelt story of love, passionate endurance, and the devastation wrought by a repressive society. I presume that Harry Styles is going to play the policeman. Okay, so this has already been made into a movie. That's great for the author, but who is the author? Let's see if we can learn any more about Bethan Roberts. Published 5 novels and writes short fiction and drama for BBC Radio 4. Her other novels include Good Plain Cook, which was a BBC Radio 4 book at bedtime, Mother Island, which received a Jerwood Fiction Uncovered Prize, and Graceland, which tells the story of Elvis Presley and his mother, Gladys. BBC Radio 4 book at bedtime. I'd love to hear from those of you in the UK what your opinion is of the public posture of books and reading. BBC 4, any other of the BBC satellite channels or networks. How high a profile do books have? I know it's a lower profile than it's ever been before, but is it still existent? It's totally non-existent in American politics. Not American politics, but in American pop culture. In the American, for instance, cable news, broadcast news, network television type thing. It's totally absent. You wouldn't know that books still existed at all. But once upon a time, that wasn't true. Once upon a time, news shows devoted a little time once in a while to books coverage. Does that still happen in the UK, and is it any good? I'd love to hear. In America, it is actively decried because this has become an absolutely stupid country. So that when Seth Meyers or Stephen Colbert have the temerity to bring an author onto their show, they get mocked for it. Hey, pretentious actor, stay in your lane. That sort of thing. So is it any better in the UK? I would love to hear that it is. Anyway, let's do this last book, and then we'll be done. What is this? Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my. All right. Well, we end on a somber note. I think this is probably a July release. I don't have a sheet for it. This is by Joel Dimsdale, who wrote The Anatomy of Malice. I think I read that book, and I think I liked it. Distinguished Professor Emeritus at the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California, San Diego. And he wrote Anatomy of Malice, the enigma of the Nazi war criminals. I did read that, and I did like it. Okay, so great. This is called Dark Persuasion, a history of brainwashing from Pavlov to social media. I don't know that you're up for reading about this. At least you don't have to read it. You just have to hear about it. This gripping book traces the evolution of brainwashing from its beginnings in torture and religious conversion into the age of neuroscience and social media. When Pavlov introduced scientific approaches, his research was enthusiastically supported by Lenin and Stalin, setting the stage for major breakthroughs in tools for social, political, and religious control. Pavlov is, of course, one of the marquee names of personal evil in my own lexicon, but not for social control. So he spent his entire adult life torturing dogs. There isn't any knowledge at all that even comes close to being worth what you gain by spending your whole adult life torturing dogs. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Got a friend or a loved one who is going to die of some kind of cancer if they don't get medicines derived from someone who spent his entire adult life torturing dogs, your friend or your loved one should die. There are prices too high. But one way or another, tracing these developments through many of the past century's major conflagrations, the author narrates how when World War II erupted, governments secretly raced to develop drugs for interrogation. Brainwashing returned to the spotlight during the Cold War in the hands of the North Koreans and the Chinese. In response, a huge Manhattan Project of the Mind was established to study memory obliteration, indoctrination during sleep, and hallucinogens. Cults used the technique as well. Nobel laureates, university academics, and intelligence operatives, criminals, and the clergy all populate this shattering and dark story, one that hasn't yet ended. I have to see here. I want to check the. I won't be, abuse your patience any longer than just to check to see. I'm going to look for one name. No. Okay, great. Fantastic. No. Okay, that one name is not in here. Let's check just for one more. No. Okay. All right. So one proponent of modern day brainwashing and one expert on it are are not in this book, but this is not a long book. There's probably a lot more that's not in this thing that's in it. One way or another, I will check on the pub date for it, but I'll probably read it tonight. I mean, it's a grim subject, especially since there's no denying the reality of it. You probably have relatives who've been more or less brainwashed by social media of one kind or another. Who knows how many people? Facebook on one end of the political spectrum or the other. Who knows how many people have been brainwashed? If we take as the common colloquial definition of brainwashing, changing someone's information intake to the point where they deny what their own senses are telling them, where they deny reality, where they deny what their eyes are seeing. If you can get someone to do that, you have effectively brainwashed them. So, on the right end of the political spectrum, you would have the brainwashing would be, I don't know, using various fake bot posts on social media like Facebook or Twitter to convince people, actually make them certain that the violent insurrection that happened on January 6th that breached the capital of my country was conducted by Antifa and not Trump supporters. When there's video, extensive video, more video coming to light all the time, when 300 people who have been convicted of violent sedition all admit, they all say it outright. They say on camera, I am not, of course, Antifa. I'm a Trump supporter. He told me to do this. That's why I did it. You have effectively brainwashed people, and maybe there are people like this in your own family. If you get them to believe, despite that, in the narrative that you're telling them, the narrative being that it was Antifa, that it was the left, that would be brainwashing on the right end of the spectrum. Brainwashing on the left end of the spectrum, I guess, would be the equivalent on the left end of the spectrum, brainwashing a certain segment of their viewership or followers on social media to believe that the Black Lives Matter protests in the summer of 2020 were peaceful, were entirely peaceful, and limited in scope. Portland is still burning every night. Portland is still the purge every night. That's a city, a major city in the United States. It has nothing to do with racial justice anymore. It is simply anarchy on the streets. And that, again, like with the breach of the Capitol, is filmed. There is documentary, direct sensory evidence that has not been doctored. If you can look at that evidence and say, I don't actually see what my eyes are looking at because I prefer the bubble of information flow that I have been given, then you have been brainwashed. One way or another, that I always take that as the sort of the basic benchmark. It's a different thing from convincing someone. You brainwash someone when you get them to believe something that contradicts the evidence of their own senses. And it happens across the spectrum, which is going to make this a pretty disturbing book to read. But on the positive side, there is no positive to brainwashing, but on the positive side, I know that I like this author. I know that I like the way he writes and researches. So there's that. There's a light. There's a hand holding mine as I go through this book. This author has very high amount of credit in the Bank of Steve. So there you go. That is your mail haul for today, as usual, all over the map. So we have Dark Persuasion, A History of Brainwashing. We have My Policeman by Beth Ann Roberts. Read it now in a lovely trade paperback from Penguin. Before you have to see Harry Styles close his eyes and think of England. Before you have to see Harry Styles mouth maul some other male actor. I don't have a screener for My Policeman. I bet it hasn't been shot yet. But it's probably been cast. Probably if I went on IMDb, I would be able to see the young tobacco addict that is going to be the male in this story, the male who mouth kisses My Policeman. We'll have to see. We'll certainly end up seeing the movie, but read the book first. Then we have Beast Before Us, which is basically about synapsids. It's basically about that entire gigantic clade of beings called synapsids that were our common ancestor. They existed, well, what, 300 million years ago. So basically, aside from a rounding error, roughly 300 million years earlier than fundamentalist Christians believe the universe existed. What you're going to do with people like that? Talk about brainwashing. But nevertheless, the record, you know, fossil and genetic and whatnot, gets better all the time, and it provides a fairly full picture of what the long synapsid period on Earth was like. But no, I will not have read an account anywhere near as detailed as this. So that's fantastic. Then To Walk Alone in a Crowd, which I suspect will be a memoir, that just calling itself a novel. We are in the grip of autofiction. We are in the grip of the fad called autofiction. I have a little bit of autofiction to talk to you about the next time I make a book video. But in the meantime, I'd be curious to know if any of you in Spain know this author, and what the author's profile is or whatnot. And finally, a pretty trade paperback, brand new, of Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel, which is Harper Canada. It just isn't a match for the one that I have, and I kind of sort of wanted it to be. I already have a copy of Bring Up the Bodies, so maybe that little paperback of Bring Up the Bodies should be some sort of giveaway. Maybe I don't do formal giveaways on this channel, because if you ask me, I leave my email on every video, and you can just ask me if you want something. Half the time I'll beat you to it. If I get something and I automatically think of one of you, half the time I'll just suggest it. You won't need to ask for it. So I don't. That's unusual on booktube channels. Most booktube channels just aren't in a constant pattern of giving things away, of mailing things out to people. I sort of am, and have been from the beginning, so I've never really done any actual giveaways. So I would say just let me know if you want me to mail you this, provided the person who got it for me is okay with that. I'll have to check and see if you are the one, and maybe there's information in the package that I didn't see. But if you're the one who sent this to me, feel free to sing out in the comments and let me know if you're okay with me giving it away, with me re-gifting it. If that would bother you, then I'll keep it. But otherwise, one of you would probably be interested in it. I don't know. One way or another, that's the mail for today. I have a feeling that another package is coming today, but it won't be books. It'll be something else. So I'm glad all these things arrived when they did and together. But one way or another, I think this is going to wrap it up for today. Look at my poor bean just looking out on the rain. I don't know if you can hear the cars on the road out there. When it's raining, they make a very wet sound on the road. So you can definitely, even if you're not looking outside, you can tell when it's raining. And it saps all the fight out of my little Hanoverian warrior princess. She hates the rain so much. More than any dog I've ever had. She hates the rain. But we're going to have to try going OUT again at some point. She can't just keep refusing if she's not going to use the facilities here, one way or another. I'm going to wrap this up. I wish you all a happy 4th of July, and I will be back, hopefully Monday. Maybe Tuesday, but Monday I'm going to shoot for, where we'll do another little video about new books. Little this time, I promise. It won't be an hour long. We'll do Silmarillion. We'll do Batman Year One. We'll do any mail or whatever. I'm sure there's a bunch of things that we can do. But in the meantime, have a happy weekend, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.